Hey, I'm Alex, and today we're going to talk a little bit about ninja history. So today on In-Depth Perceptions, we're going to be talking a little bit about ninja history. Some of the ninja weapons, such as the Nunchuck and the bow staff, as well as sickle and other tools that they deployed to their means of both assassination, covert ops, and defense, self-defense. So what we're going to do now is take a little look over here at a quick, dirty, easy, do-it-yourself way to make, say, a wooden nunchuck like this with a metal chain, a little more safer to use in your house. And I'm just going to throw it up over there, and while I'm working, I'll kind of talk a little bit about the nunchuck and safe practices to pretty much always adhere to, even if you have foam wrapped around your nunchuck like in the video over here. The nunchucks can be very dangerous, but thankfully they're not like the most dangerous weapon in the world. They are considered a soft weapon. So what that really means is that when you employ a soft weapon and you want to do damage with it, you have to target harder parts of the body. So when we think about hard parts, it's bony parts such as the joints here in the elbow and the knee, as well as like the top of the head here and the jaw. Those are spots that you really want to aim with quote-unquote soft weapons, because these are weapons that don't do immediate hard damage, like killing damage. So you usually have to hit one or two more times with this to kill someone, but you can definitely kill someone with this, right? Unlike where with a sword, which is a hard weapon, or a bow staff, you want to aim towards meatier, quote-unquote softer parts of the body that can be cut or damaged and sliced through, kind of things like that. So when we think about hitting with the nunchuck, we really want to target either low towards the knees and sweeping attacks towards the arm and disarming your opponent. So if your opponent has, say, a sword or a bat or something, you really want to target the joint and disable their arm through that means. If you hit in the muscle, in the bulk area, like right here in the forearm or up in the shoulder, nunchucks, I mean, it'll sting, it'll hurt, but it's really not going to incapacitate opponent, such as taking out maybe like their jawbone or the top of their head, which, I mean, that hurts just thinking about. So employing proper fighting tactics will definitely get you going the right direction immediately. And then when we think about the nunchuck as a tool and how it works physically, in the dynamic of, say, like physics, we have the chain in the middle. It has the least kinetic energy. It just kind of dangles there, right? If you hit someone with the chain part, it just wraps around and it doesn't do much of anything because there's no kinetic energy. It's a weak chain. At the end is where all the force is directed. So the ideal spot to hit your opponent will be at the end, and the ideal spot to hit yourself, or say like deflect. So when you're wrapping around and you're deflecting the nunchucks off of your own body for another swing, you want to force or focus on hitting the weakest kinetic chain. So closer to the chain, closer to the pivot point, which directs the energy and redirects the flow of the kinetic chain. And really making sure that anytime you come in contact with yourself and you're grabbing the nunchucks, you're grabbing them up high towards the chain. Right, that's when you're going to least hurt yourself. Ninjas really have a very diverse history, and a lot of it's shrouded in folklore and Hollywood magic. So the ninjas, as far as we know, they were really kind of a ragtag group of farmers and monks who trained really to defend their land from invading shoguns. So when we look at structure in feudal Japan, we look at samurai. They followed the way of the Bushido, so they had a very structured dynamic to their warfare. They always fought face to face and honored certain rules. So there wasn't a lot of covert ops in shogun history. That's what makes the ninja very, very unique, right? So the ninjutsu art form was adopted by monks and priests who needed to defend their temples and to defend their land and their farms from encroaching shoguns and samurais who were encroaching on their land and claiming them in the name of the shogun. So these ninjas really were just kind of a ragtag group of people. They were farmers and peasants, most part, and their weapons really reflect such. So when we look at the nunchucks here, they were adopted from a farming tool. The farming tool being essentially rope, not chain, tying two sticks together, and they'd walk through the rice fields and they beat the rice grains off of the plant and then come through in another, like a rake essentially, and rake up the grains. So using tools like a staff and a sickle that look like ordinary farming tools was very advantageous to the ninja and their secrecy, because they were training in secrecy to defend their villages or their peasants, the other peasants and the monks, from these invading samurai. The samurai had the luxury of being trained with swords, and they were essentially a military employed by the shoguns. So they had a military sort of existence. They had armor and they had horses and they had training dummies. But the ninjas had to train in the fields and they had to train in secret, so they disguised a lot of their training to look sort of like basic farming actions. So they used farmers' tools and sickles, and not often would they be carrying swords even. A lot of times ninjas wouldn't carry swords because carrying a sword was a declaration that you were a warrior. It signaled to the people around you that you were ready to fight, and you would fight, and you would do so honorably as dictated by Bushido, which was the way of the blade. So when the ninjas started employing their kind of deceitful tactics, it was very dishonorable to the shoguns and to the samurais and the Bushido way. So they got shunned and they got outcast quite often, which meant they had to do a lot more of their training in secrets, and the jobs that they took when they became mercenaries and they left the way of the ninjas. They continued that way of secrecy. So they employed tactics of like thievery and assassination, a lot of things that became to be known as being done in the dark, which is why we often picture ninjas in black clothing, when oftentimes they probably would have just looked like an average farmer, because they wanted to blend in. They didn't want to stand out as any particular noticeable figure, when standing out drew attention to you, right? If you look like a farmer carrying a farmer's tool, a samurai would walk right up to you within stabbing distance, and you could assassinate your target and walk away looking like every other farmer in the area. So the ninjas really appealed to the downtrodden and the farmers and the outcast. And when we look at ninja sport today, the new age ninja, such as American Ninja Warrior and competition-wise like that, I like to draw inspirations from what the ninja were in appealing to the downtrodden and the peasant and the person who was not thought to be good enough, because in ninja sport you can get through any obstacle, right? Nothing is impossible. It may look hard and it may look impossible, but ninja these days is about overcoming obstacles and pushing through what looks to be impossible. And with the right training, ninjas in the past knew with the right training you could overcome the samurai, and the samurai were feared by everyone. So standing up to a samurai was not only a show of great courage and overcoming the status quo, the encroaching samurai who took what they wanted and gained what they wanted. To stand up to something that you think is impossible is really the ninja way. So if you get out there and you train every day and you try to overcome those obstacles, even the things that seem impossible today can be beaten down tomorrow and overcome, and just persevere and always train hard, ninjas. And always remember that you are good enough and you can overcome any challenge come your way. So there you have, you guys, a quick, maybe not super quick, but simple way to make your nunchucks a little bit safer for practicing if you have wooden nunchucks. Of course you can buy regular foam nunchucks, but I had these wooden nunchucks from when I was younger, and I used to do a lot more practice with them. But since I am older now and more nervous about hurting myself, this is kind of a quick, simple, like dirty way to get some safe practice in. They still hurt. I mean, they'll let you know that you messed up if you hit yourself in the nose with them. It's still gonna wake you up. But this way we can get in here and we can feel a little safer to practice our drills. So we can do some up-down drills. Up, down, and then left-right drills. And this way we don't have to worry so much about whipping into our back if we don't, you know, get the distance right for where we want the nunchuck to land. And remember, you always want nunchucks to land when they're coming in contact with you, to be where I put the black tape and higher to the other black tape, right? So anywhere in the chain, this is its weakest kinetic point. The hardest is gonna be the end, right? So if you're hitting someone in the end here, or if you're hitting yourself in the end, it's gonna be a lot harder. All the kinetic energy is focused into the end, much like with a sword. Either way, you kind of have to bite the bullet with nunchucks. You are making constant contact with it, so it kind of hurts. It does hit up here in the ribs, on the soft tissue of the armpit and stuff when you're catching it. You know, you kind of have to bite the bullet somewhat on nunchucks, because you're using your knowledge and like the science of physics to your advantage to recoil basically the nunchucks off of your own body and then flip them around. So the padding will definitely help with that. And then when you get comfortable and good enough, you just tear off the padding, cut the tape off, and you got your wooden nunchucks back. But the padding also just keep your nunchucks alive a little longer if you're hitting stuff. So if you're practicing on, say, Bob here, and you're constantly hitting on Bob, not only will the pads keep your nunchucks alive, but they'll keep Bob alive a little longer too, because I mean, all things fade with time. So if you're constantly hitting Bob with these hard nunchucks, you're just gonna tear through your punching bags. So, you know, wrap up your nunchucks, do a little practice, and then when you feel like going hard, take the padding off and, you know, get at it. Alrighty guys, there was a brief history on ninjas and some of their weapons like the nunchucks. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite ninja weapon is and if you know how to use it. As always, train hard, ninjas.